Okam Nisanka. Okay. So we've already talked a little bit about the sensory process and the consciousness. But I want to talk about and begin discussing what are called the five aggregates. So yesterday, we mentioned the Four Noble Truths and the truth about suffering. I mentioned there was three levels of suffering, being the physical level that's concerned with this body and everything in the world is subject to breakage and dissolution, and especially this our own body. It causes us a lot of problems in life. I mean, some people are born in conditions where the body is just a constant menace or problem their whole life, from the birth of day one to the, however long they live. They're in the hospital or totally incapacitated, or due to so many various types of things. Of course, there's others who are not so. But anyway, the physical level of suffering. And then the mental counterpart that grieves because of the physical problems. The mind grieves with sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So, those are called the heavies, this body that's subject to old age, diseases, getting broken bones, and all kinds of pains. And then the mind that grieves about it when people die, and they grieve for years and years, and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. That's the heavy kind of suffering. Now, the second level of suffering was getting what you don't want and not getting what you want, or not getting what you want and getting what you don't want. And so this is a more kind of everyday type of situation. And if you counted up the amount of things in one day, situations and so on that occurred to you that you didn't get something that you wanted, or you got something that you didn't want. You can go out in the morning to start your car and it doesn't start. You're late for work, you get frustrated, so on. So there's a lot of little things too, little moments, but they add up. When you get hundreds and thousands of them, then they create an underlying level of stress and tension and worry in the mind. And then after the Buddha defined those two levels of suffering, he said, in short, the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. And the five aggregates of clinging are really all of the Buddha's wisdom teachings and meditation teachings are about learning how to understand these five aggregates and how they're affecting us every single nanosecond, microsecond, minute of our life, because actually it is our life. And it's one of the kind of concepts that's hard to understand. So, but I want to also, so anyway, the first aggregate is the body, or material form. And material form includes this physical body, but it also includes the forms that are created by the mind. And the physical forms are actually the vibrations of, visible objects, smells, tastes, body sensations, and sounds. So, like a sound, this voice is a sound vibration. So that's a material form. But it doesn't mean anything until you've learned the meaning and created that vibration into a perception. Like the baby, the example of the baby when it's born. Is born into a hospital and might be hearing all kind of voices and feeling heat, but he doesn't know nothing in terms of what anything is. There's lots of vibrations going through his senses, maybe through the body, some pain because he gets pulled out with a big forceps on his head, pulled out. Might be a little bit painful. But, his mind is not knowing anything really until it starts, learning in the language. And then, he gets a name and so on. But anyway, so I don't want to make it too complicated. But anyway, the physical forms are basically the vibrations of this body. I mean, even this body is made up of what? We've already been talking about it quite a bit. What's this body made up of? Cells. Okay. You'll buy that? Billions of cells, right? What are cells made up of? Come on, you biologists. Come on, speak. Molecules, yeah. What are molecules made up of? And what are atoms made up of? Well, let's keep it simple. Electrons. Because the amount of electrons going around an atom determine whether it's going to be a drop of water or it's going to be some heat or it's going to be a piece of dirt or whatever. So why do they call them electrons? Because basically they're electricity. Okay? We on the same page? Can you buy that? Okay, so following that deductive reasoning, then this body is basically compressed energy. Right? You got billions and billions of trillions of cells and even 10 times that many molecules and electrons compressed into something now that feels like it's solid. But in reality, it's just, condensed energy. So anyway, I don't want to make it too complicated, but so the material form is what is, where we see all the objects that we see, but in reality, it just comes down to, energy vibrations. And that's why the body can be burned in a couple of hours in a furnace or reduced to ashes, nothing, because it's not, anything really solid. So this material form is, and not only that, but again, when you see this, all you're seeing is material form. When you look at this, what's actually striking your eye are colors in a certain density and shape, or any other object. You look at that object, the Buddha statue, or even this microphone, and these are different impressions striking your eye. But then the mind creates an image out of it, I've already mentioned. Takes that energy vibration and creates a kind of a mental picture of it. that's then remembered in the mind. And then we take that mental picture to be something solid and real. Now, I know this is difficult to understand, but in meditation you can actually get insights in direct perception into the reality of that. And then even the sense of ourself also, we that's a perception in our mind. But I want to come back and talk about the three dualities of the mind. Now, the word meditation is an English translation for the word bhavana. But it's interesting. Whoever translated, bhavana for meditation, he must have been a Buddha or something. I don't know, because the word meditation starts with M-E-D-I, the spelling, right? M-E-D-I, that's sort of the root. What other words start with M-E-D-I? Come on. Then you win a spelling bee? Medicine, yes. Any others? Mediation, or medium, or the media. So all these words have a common thread. They act as a bridge between two opposing objects. So medicine is a bridge between sickness and health, right? So we take medicine to try to come to a balance between sickness and health. And the mediator sits between two arguing groups of people, trying to resolve their problems. In the medium, converses with humans and the spirits. In the media, tries to flesh out the truth, but these days it's pretty sketchy. And so what does meditation sit in the middle of? I mean, the real meaning of meditation, apart from all this other stuff, meditation, yes, watching the breaths, doing this and doing that, and jhana. But actually, what is it doing? What does meditation sit in the middle of? I've already talked about it a lot. What are we doing in meditation? Yes, but what is the purpose of concentrating? To bring the mind to the present moment. Okay? Present moment awareness. How many hundreds of times have I been mentioning that? So that means in the middle, between past and future. So meditation is keeping the mind in the middle, not creating the past and not creating the future. So you do that by concentrating on an object, such as the breathing, because it's occurring in the present moment, or the body, or some other objects. But basically it means keeping the mind in the middle, between those dualities of past and future. And there's another duality. There's three main dualities. The second one is pleasure and pain. So in meditation, we're trying to keep our mind in the middle between pleasure and pain. That means not going out seeking pleasure and not being afraid and trying to push away pain, but resting the mind in the middle. And the third one, anybody have a guess, the third one? Me and you. That means self and others. So our mind is constantly going back and forth between these dualities. Past and future, pleasure, pain, me and the other person. Self-obsession and then fighting other people. So that's, the whole life revolves around the mind engaging in these dualities. And basically they're just created, by the mind. So, but that's really, that's the definition I like the most for meditation, is keeping the mind in the middle. And that's what mindfulness is. Bringing the mind to that present moment, and then being aware when the mind is starting to be pulled, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, or pain. So, that's the main focus in mindfulness meditation, is learning how to rest the mind in the middle, moment to moment, awareness. Now, coming back to the nature of our mind and consciousness, the Buddha, he taught a sutra called the All, A-L-L, the All. So he's giving a talk to a lot of monks, and he says, "Monks, I'll teach you the All." And they were like all ears. We're listening. And he said, what is the All? It's the eye and seeing. It's the ear and hearing. It's the nose and smelling. It's the tongue and tasting, or flavors and tasting, or the tongue and tasting. The body and feeling, and the mind and thinking. And he said, if you can show me any other All, let me see it. And he asked the monks, "Monks, is there any other All?" He said, they were like confused. No. Now, what is the meaning of that? That means our whole life is made up of moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. And that's all. Of course, and the mind, going back and forth in these three dualities, connected with those moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. So, what our mind is comprised of is just, those moments that arise and vanish very quickly. Now, in meditation, how many people in your meditation, could notice a lot of things just coming and going to their body and mind? Only one? Two? Keep meditating, maybe you'll see more. But anyway, if you observe it, you will realize, yes, that's all that's happening in the mind. Or even right now, there's moments of seeing this, hearing sound, maybe thoughts are rising in your mind, but they're constantly changing. And from the moment a person is born to the moment they die, that's all there is in life. Although we react to those moments and we create, sort of alternative worlds out of them and so on. But that's an important aspect of the mindfulness training, is to tune into that moment-to-moment, sensory impingements, but without clinging and without grasping those objects, creating the past and the future out of them, and then creating our karma around them. So this is part of the psychology, the Buddhist psychology of understanding the mind. Now, so all these moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, basically that is the material forms coming through our senses. And then the second aggregate is feeling. And that means it's the pleasurable or painful or neutral feeling that is triggered off because of those contacts. Because every and it's connected again with the baby in its memory. When it tasted the chocolate for the first time, and it identified the source of that pleasurable feeling with the face of the grandmother. So every time he would see the face of the grandmother again, he would get a pleasurable feeling because he's expecting to get another pleasurable feeling of the chocolate. Or it could be the opposite with the pain. So the feeling is connected with the form, and these feelings are remembered. So everything you've seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, and thought about has connected with it either a pleasurable feeling, a painful feeling, or what is called a neutral feeling. But again, these are programmed. We've programmed these into us, such as an itch on the body. Most of you, if you had an itch on the body or some kind of, biting sensation, would like that, would enjoy it? So, now there's a lot of things that, are pretty universal, and everybody probably doesn't enjoy a toothache or, some strong kinds of pains. But things like itches, actually I enjoy itches because it forces you to concentrate, forces you to kind of relax around them. And then you are able to undermine them, and actually you can at least maybe not enjoy, but develop a equanimous, neutral reaction to them, knowing that they're impermanent and they will change very quickly. And so these feelings can also change. So everything that we've learned in life, but we get attached to these feelings and we think they're real. And, the pleasure and pain that things cause us. And therefore we block out half of the world because of our fear or aversion to, various types of objects. And I usually give an example from my own experience with avocados and how they cause me a lot of suffering. And this is due to the perception, the feeling and the perception. Now the perception I've already talked about is whenever you hear or see something, the mind creates the memory of it. You look, close your eyes now. Just close your eyes. Now you're hearing this voice, but what pops into your mind all at the same time? Is it Bhante speaking? So it pops into your mind. Well, where'd that come from? It's because you've learned it. Because, over hearing the same things or seeing the same things over and over again, they become, concepts within the mind. So anyway, that experience I had when I was young, I, didn't like avocados. I sort of hated avocados. But we lived in California near an avocado grove. And my mother used to serve avocados with salads 2 or 3 times a week in the season. And just hearing the word avocado, my mother would say, "Oh, we're having avocados for dinner. Can you go pick some out in the orchard?" And just hearing that word sent a shiver up my spine. I had this aversion. I don't really know where it came from. And then I would be worried. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so we had a cat who liked avocados. And so I used to go search for the cat outside and bring him into the house. And then when my mother brought the avocados to the table, just seeing them, I had another kind of aversion reaction. And then, so I suffered from hearing the word. I suffered from thinking about having to eat them that evening. And then suffered when I saw them. And then when my mother brought them close to the table, and I had to, bring it up and smell it, sometimes I would gag. And when I actually put them in the mouth, sometimes I actually vomited. Not always, but once or twice I had. But anyway, I had another strong reaction, and I had to mix it with some other food. The only way I didn't suffer the avocado was if I rubbed it on the skin, I wouldn't feel any kind of, negative feeling. So I suffered in 5 ways. Because I clung to this idea that avocados are evil. But my mother and brother and father, they loved avocados. They were just wolfing them down. And I had to sit and stare at my plate. And then the cat was under the plate, and when my parents weren't looking, I would feed a piece of the avocado to the cat under the table. And then we couldn't watch TV until we finished all of our dinner. That was back in the old days, When there was only one TV in the house, and it was in a special room called the den. People didn't have TVs in their bedrooms or in their kitchens in those days, usually. So anyway, all my mother, father, brother, they would, finish their dinner and go in and watch their favorite, Leave It to Beaver programs and other, programs on TV back in the 50s and 60s. And I would be staring at my plate, but as soon as everyone left, I fed the rest of it to the cat. Then I took my plate to my mom and I said, "Look, Ma, I finished." And she said, "Ah, good little boy." So what did I do? What did I do then? No, I told a lie to my mother, saying, to the fact that, I had eaten the avocado, or made her believe that. But I told a lie to my own mother. How bad is that? So that was all because I clung to this idea. I was clinging to the feeling, I was clinging to the perception that avocados were bad. Now, if avocados were inherently bad, no one would like them. Now, this is not the end of the story. So later on, when I went to India and started learning the Dhamma, and learning about the nature of illusion and about the mind like that, I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to see if I can change my attitude about avocados. See if I can change my feeling, convert what used to be a painful feeling to a pleasant feeling. By simply changing my attitude about it. So I got a bag of avocados, I sat down, and first I had to mix the avocado with some other food. And then, I had to hold my nose. And the first couple of times I might have gagged a little bit, but I kept on telling myself, avocados are good, avocados are good. It's all in the mind, it's all in the mind. Because my yoga teacher was extolling the virtues of avocados. And now we all know that it's touted to be one of the, best, fruits. But anyway, so little by little, over a couple of weeks, I kept on doing that. And little by little, I could take my finger off the nose. And after some more days, I could stop mixing it with so much different food. And then after a couple of weeks, I could start, eating it without any bad reaction. And then over time, I began, liking avocados. And now I love avocados. So everywhere I go, people are bringing me avocados. But the important point is, the takeaway is, that you can change your mind about things. And you don't have to fear and worry about all these, clinging to all these mind-made, self-made phobias and fears about so many objects and things, that cause us a lot of suffering. And that make us do a lot of unskillful karma. Like killing, stealing, lying, cheating, all that, in order to get what we perceive as pleasurable or what we want, and to avoid what we don't want. But all these wants and not wants have been created within the mind. But people cling to them. That's why they're called aggregates of clinging. We cling to them as being permanent, and we cling, especially clinging to our sense of self. So anyway, that is, I just wanted to point that out to show how it's clinging to these perceptions and feelings that limit our mind and consciousness, and also cause us a lot of unnecessary agitation. And then because of these perceptions, we act upon them. So the fourth aggregate is the reactions. That means we react to the things either with, causing us to various thoughts and actions, tell lies and cheat, steal, and rape, pillage, and plunder over our ideas of what's going to bring us happiness or not. And then the fifth of the aggregate is consciousness, which is the sense of I am doing all these things. And all these things are happening to me. I am the doer, the thinker, the person that likes, the person that doesn't like. We think it's I that am owning and doing all these things, but ultimately that is an illusion. And it's the habits that are liking and disliking. And that's one of the main teachings of the Buddha, was about the clinging to the sense of self, but clinging to all of these aggregates. So in the meditation, actually part of the mindfulness training is learning how to observe these different activities of the mind. So the 5 aggregates is the mental process of the contact, which is the material form. The material form comes through the senses, contact. So hearing vibration, seeing vibration, smelling, tasting vibration. Essentially, it's just a vibration coming through the senses. But we can notice that feeling that it triggers off. Now, how many people, when you are meditating, and maybe you heard you were, deep concentration, then you heard a sound that maybe you had a reaction to, that you didn't like, or you're blaming somebody for moving or doing something that you didn't like. I saw 1 or 2 hands come up. Okay, well, that's an unpleasant sensation, or a painful sensation creates a reaction of, I don't like it, or I don't want it, or a fear, reactions like that then trigger off our thoughts. So actually sounds are very good in meditation for observing the mental process. And even your body. Because whenever something happens to the body, you can see the sense of self there. That it doesn't like that itch, doesn't like that pain that's arising, doesn't like the sound that you might be hearing, or maybe not even like some thought that's in your mind. How many had thoughts in their mind that they didn't like? So even that thought caused you a painful feeling, because you wish it wouldn't come. And how many people had pleasant thoughts that caused them a pleasurable feeling? Right? Thinking about, your best friend or something, or whatever. So we can directly observe these feelings, and we can reflect back about what strong of an effect that it has on us our whole life. Go back even, into childhood, or as far back as you can remember, and see how you reacted or did things based on, clinging to these ideas of things being painful, or not liking, or liking. Cause you to go out of greed to do something, and then had some painful effect from that. So this is part of the reflection on Dhamma, actually. And how to analyze your thoughts and to reflect on the power of the mind. And because it's occurring moment to moment in your experience, through all the senses. If somebody lets some air out the backside and it whiffs by like this, how many times have you done that? So it happens, from odors. It happens from things you see, things you hear, things you feel in the body, even if it's taste. Maybe you had some gas come up from the stomach and it produced an unpleasant taste in the mouth, or something. Or thoughts. So, but that's, the aggregate of feeling. And we cling and react to those things, taking them to be real when actually they're just vibrations, just floating through space. We think things disturb us, but no, we go out and disturb the things. So let's say some person was talking and you're trying to meditate. And that person is just talking and he's just oblivious. It's just sound. But yet in your mind you're getting angry. And then you might even at some point, get up and then about to go tell that person off or to be quiet. And then get in a big argument. But you're the one that disturbed him. You get it? You see where this is going? Because it's very interesting. We're the ones who go out and disturb others. We think people are disturbing us. No. It's our reaction that that then causes the suffering and the problems. So this is the way we train ourselves to think, in the meditation. As part of the meditation training, because the Buddha even mentions this in the foundations of mindfulness. When he's talking about the six senses and the five aggregates. And to understand feeling, you understand how pleasant feeling arises, you understand how it ceases, how it affects the mind, and you understand how pleasant feeling arises, how it continues, how it ceases, and how it affects the mind. This is the way we use that contemplation to gain insight. And so hopefully the next time those things come, now we have this kind of insight to see, it's just hearing. Why should I get upset? Because it's just a sound vibration floating through the space of awareness. This is how Vipassana meditator contemplates. And it leads to very, very deep, states of awareness. And it's the way that we can change or transform our nervous system. Instead of always, fighting in the world and getting upset a lot of things and getting stressed out, whether it's at work or with other family members, watching the news, we allow ourselves to get disturbed by what's going on in the news. We can't do anything really about it. And people work themselves up into frenzies over these things, which basically are just created in the mind. So it's a very powerful kind of wake-up call. So anyway, that's the five aggregates. Basically, is that process. So that process is happening actually every moment. Like that sound, all those five things happened. There was a sound contacting the ear, producing a sound vibration. And how many people had a reaction to that sound that was just made? Cause anybody to kind of shock like that? Or why did you do that? So it produced a feeling, pleasant or painful or neutral feeling, and then you perceived it, it was Bhante clapping. And then you either agree with it or don't agree with it or have some other reaction. And the sense of this is happening to to meet. So all those things are occurring, they come together in what is called a moment, a mind moment. But it arises and vanishes, that fast. And so that's called the five aggregate process, and that's occurring millions of times, even in a second. That process is occurring faster than a supercomputer processes information. Our nervous system is processing all the sensory vibrations that are coming through our senses. So if you've ever been into kind of a noisy place, or let's say a crowded place where there's all kind of sensory stimulus going on, there's all kind of visual things going on, there was sounds, there was smells, like you go into a nightclub or some other places where there's loud music and there's all kind of gaudy lights and so on, and there's the smells and tastes and sensations. But the mind is, processing all of those things. But anyway, it's interesting to observe that, because in the meditation, actually, once the mind gets more centered and calm and is able to just observe, that's when you actually start to be able to clearly see this moment-to-moment process. And that keeps you awake. And it's very interesting to observe it. But most people think, oh, that's too distracting. I just want to, enter a kind of a void, some kind of abstract hypnotic state, or a void, and everything's just quiet, just groove. That's a false meditation. Because it's not transforming. So, you transform the mind by going through it, directly through it, by remaining awake and alert, and using your understanding and wisdom to what is called do battle with Mara. How many have heard of old Mara? So what's Mara? What is this Mara? It's Mara is the delusion in your mind, yes. It takes things that are impermanent, that takes them to be permanent. And it takes things which are the source of suffering as things that are going to bring happiness. And it takes things that are not self, it takes them as being self. But anyway, I didn't want to get, maybe too carried away and all that, but it's this kind of insight meditation, the insight meditation. I mean, how many have heard the word insight meditation? So what does that mean to you, insight meditation? It means getting insights into these things, into impermanence, suffering, no self, getting insight into the nature of the aggregates and how the mind has got entangled and into the inner and outer tangle. And the insight comes from observing it. And observing how quickly things are arising and vanishing. So anyway, we'll be talking more about that again, but I just wanted to mention these things because, the problem is people when they meditate, in our normal neurotic state of mind, when you sit down and you just calm the mind a little bit, and you reach a little bit of kind of concentration, you start to feel a little bit of these pleasant, light, pleasant sensations. It's so radical from your ordinary state that the mind says, that's enough for me. Oh, yeah. And just, want to groove. But it's a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. And that's why to break out of it, you have to start directing the mind toward developing this kind of insight, so the mind doesn't get sink into this kind of a limbo state, which is not sleep, but it's not really, alert or aware either. It's kind of a fuzzy in-between state. It's like when you smoke a joint. You're not sleeping, but you think you have some kind of high state, but it's it's just a dead end. So, does anybody have any questions about any of those things I was talking about? Yeah, okay, so if any questions come up, out of the next meditation, or you can write any questions down that you have for this evening's, Q&A session. Okay? So if there's no other questions, then go ahead and mindfully stand up. Begin some three-part breathing. while you're doing some deep, slow breathing and standing meditation, try to tune your attention to various contacts on the skin or sound, so you can detect any pleasurable or painful reaction in the mind. Just try to understand that all these sounds are just vibrations. The sensations on the body are just vibrations. If the mind creates any mental pictures or words, creates an object out of the vibration, understand that as a perception. do a little session of some walking around the room as we did before we sit down again. Again, in the walking practice, see if you can discern those separate movements, the feet lifting, swinging, placing, shifting forward, any other movements to make with the body